I went to a book club meeting the other day where there were maybe 15, 18 women there, and we were discussing a book on the creative writing process. And I expected that our discussion was going to center around creativity, writing, imagination. But woman after woman going around the circle started talking about the goddess, started talking about the divine feminine. And this was a room full of people where nobody really knew anybody else. We were just coming together to meet over this book. And it really surprised me, but it warmed my heart tremendously because I think that I've been saying for a long time that the goddess is waking up, that this divine feminine is coming back to earth right now, or just vibrating, turning face forward again. She chose to turn away for some time to experience what that was like to play hide and seek with herself. And now I would even go so far as to say that she's not waking up, that she's fully awake. And what does that mean? It means that we are now willing to understand whatever it is on the divine principle and bring that into the body. We're willing to look at complexity. We're willing to hold two opposing factors, two binaries at the exact same time. Anytime that we can hold opposites at the same time, we know that we are willing to dance with the dance. We're willing to dance with the body. We're willing to immerse ourselves in the divine feminine. And I believe that the divine feminine is the new feminism. I'm not a student of feminism. I've taken courses on it. It's been a long time, decades actually. And it all felt very political. And of course it is political. It's a necessary, it is a absolute right to understand feminism, especially when we're not in a liberal society, but when we're in a more restricted space. And our children need to understand the importance of that. But it always felt a little distant from me, to be totally honest, a little bit too like, my brain needed to understand these concepts, and then I needed to understand what the arguments were, and then I needed to understand the philosophers that people were arguing against, and it all became this like really complex cycle, and then there were factions and this and that. And for me, what makes sense is maybe this meta concept where the divine feminine is feminism, because spirituality, understanding, embodiment has to include not just the female body, the female sexed body, female sex at birth, the female gender, those chosen into the female realm. It has to include way beyond that, has to also include the masculine. And I always say that this pattern of patriarchy, which maybe should have a different name because patriarchy makes it sound like it's by and for men, but this pattern of patriarchy has injured men as much as it has injured women, especially sensitive men, especially the creative process, especially men who understand the divine masculine. The divine masculine is that ability to hold stillness in the pulsation. So like the ability of the tree to hold its root, to hold its ground, even when there's a hurricane, even when the weather is colorful, even when the weather is weathering. So for me, this concept that the divine feminine is the new feminism is up for your interpretation. It's a calling. It's something that I know. What does that mean? What are the theories that might build around that? I'm not sure. What I do know is that two things: the body has to be included in our spiritual process, and we have to understand that at the core, the divine feminine is the ability to hold opposites, the ability to hold two things where we want to, or historically we get into these like tension crises because we want so badly to hold just one side, but not both. We want to hold on to victimization, for example, but not perpetrator. We want to hold on to light only, but not dark. We want to hold on to joy or like find your bliss, but we don't want to look at grief, right? So that whole pattern is already disappearing. That's why I say the goddess is already awake, because we understand right now that this ability to hold opposites is the frame, and it's the frame for living a complete life. And once we understand that, once we claim the divine feminine as the, let's say, the blueprint, the energy of what's happening right now as her being awake, then we can start. Then we can even get to a place where we don't have to reference this in relation to masculine or feminine. We can just call it sacred embodiment. We can just call it the way of life, the way of light and dark, the way of process, the way of living. But for now, we're still using the term, and we still need to use the term. So what is the divine feminine to you, and how is that the new feminism?